Just got done editing this interview. You guys are going to love it. Before I do that, though, I want you to know that I'm going to be in the comments for the next 30 minutes or so answering your questions. If there's additional questions you want me to ask the CEO next time I interview them, leave them below. Or if you're just loving the data points I get CEOs to share, click the thumbs up button below. That's your way of telling me you're loving this stuff, and I'll get you more of it. Additionally, again, I'll be in the comments answering any questions you have. All right, for 30 minutes. Enjoy the interview. Hello, everyone. My guest today is James Marks. He's a serial entrepreneur with multiple successful exits focused on the intersection of design, music, and commerce, now building Whiplash. James, ready to take us to the top?
I am. Let's go.
All right. So the website is getwhiplash.com. What's the company do?
Whiplash is an e-commerce order fulfillment solution. So people put their products in our warehouses. We pack it up and ship it out when they need it ordered.
Are those warehouses on your balance sheet?
They are not. So Originally, we opened those warehouses ourselves and we owned and operated them. And then we switched to a network platform after a few years when we realized companies were already doing a great job on the physical side. And what they needed was good software to kind of bridge that gap.
Okay, so you owned and operated. So how many warehouses did you own and operate for a period of time?
I think we were up to 3 when we got out of that part of it. And we pivoted to the network model. And today we've got about 18.
Okay, and how much square footage were those warehouses altogether?
Yeah, so ours were relatively small. I think we started, the first one was like 500 square feet, and then they grew, and then we were up to about 16,000 square feet.
Across all 3?
Yeah, the largest was 16,000, so we were about 20,000 in total, and that's when we realized it wasn't our game.
Okay.
And so with the network partners, and now we've got, like 800,000 square feet, right?
Well, so what'd you do? Did you sell off those 3 warehouses?
Yeah, we sold them to they're basically friends from one of my previous businesses and said, hey, why don't you guys set up a LLC and you'll operate these as part of the network model. And that was maybe 3 years ago. It's gone pretty well.
Okay, so now you have 18 partners. You're not responsible for physical locations, repairs, property taxes, etc. What's the relationship like with these partners?
So that was the surprising thing, is that the partners are in the business to sell fulfillment services. And so they look at us like a customer. And so we're actually just buying those services from them. We're known for having good software and being a little bit more in tune with what the e-commerce needs. So we've got an integration already built to Shopify. We already know how to use the right shipping methods. And so it's actually fairly positive. They see us as making them relevant as the switch happens to e-commerce.
But what do you do? Do you buy X% of their warehouses every month? It's a fixed fee, or is it variable, or how?
Yeah, it's variable. So we kind of go into it together. So we're going to bring our software and our customers, and usually we cordon off a section of the warehouse to do a trial, and then it's all percentage of revenue based.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I guess let me role play with you. I'm your friend who bought those 20,000 square foot of space. You say, hey, friend, I want the back left corner. It's 1,000 square feet to run a test in. I can't pay you anything up front, but I think I'm going to put $1 million of GMV through this part of the warehouse every single month, and I'll give you 1% of it. You promise that, or that sounds good, but then you don't do any GMV for whatever reason. Demand's not there. What happens?
So those relationships where maybe we miss the opportunity, we would end up closing that section, and it's like a failed launch. Basically, we've had relatively few of those, but because warehouses have the space already, and it's not like we're saying, okay, commit this to us for a year and maybe we'll do something down the road. It's 2 months, and we get a small experiment. Companies are we find the right partners who are hungry to do that kind of thing.
Okay, and did I get it right? I mean, is it 1% of GMV typically, or is it a percent of GMV model?
It's not a percent of GMV. So fulfillment works on, usually you've got like a fixed handling fee that's we have like a retail rate that we charge our customers and a wholesale rate that we're going to pay to the warehouse partners.
Yep.
So it's reflective of standard things in the industry, like how many orders are in and how many items are in an order. It doesn't get into GMV, and it's more of a we set those rates based on tiers for how large the customer is. So you might have a customer that's shipping 100 packages a month is going to pay one set of rates, where a customer that's shipping 50,000 packages a month will pay a different set of rates.
Yeah, so let's look at your medium plan, right? In the United States, 1,000 orders per month per package is $2.25, and then if you go up to add 7 items to that order, it's only 19 cents per additional item. That's what you mean by the variable pricing.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's tiered per customer category.
Yeah, interesting.
And then, the pricing that you see on the site, it's really great to start a conversation, and it sort of anchors things. The reality is that e-commerce companies are all a little bit different. You often have, some regional player who maybe doesn't have the tech, but they're hungry and they're trying to, put together some special pricing package. So we do end up tuning those to a degree. And, we play that. There's a little bit of as a platform, we can choose, what warehouse the product is going to go into. We can choose who's a good match for where the products are coming from and going to. And so we can load balance it a little bit and sometimes provide a little bit of tuning on the pricing to win the deal for us and the partner.
Can you throw your weight around because you have so much volume to get better economics? So I guess the real question I should ask is, over the past 12 months, how many total items have you shipped?
So the total items we've shipped over the last 12 months, it's multiple millions. We can throw our weight, or we don't really throw weight around. We look for things that work for everyone and say, hey, if we could do this together, we'd win this deal together. And it's more opt-in. We're not going to bully somebody and say, you have to do this if you want this other thing to happen.
Okay. But when you say total items shipped, you're talking like 3 million over the past 12 months, or more like 10 million?
I'd say off the top of my head, I think it's probably in the 3 million range.
Okay, that's good. And across how many, I guess, unique brands or customers, like beta brands?
Yeah, so our list right now is probably around 400 customers.
Okay,
so
that's pretty good.
There's some beta brands in there. There's some smaller folks, and then some of my favorites are the smaller folks who don't necessarily push crazy volume through, but they're really great brands, like the Moth podcast, right? Where we're doing their merch, and the numbers aren't going to blow anyone's doors off, but it feels great to be a part of their story. There's a lot of brands on our platform.
So what are they sending, the Moth podcast?
I haven't looked at their account in a minute, but it's t-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags, the kind of stuff you'd expect from a radio show.
Interesting. Do you see power laws in your customer base? So does your top customer, how much do they send annually through you?
Yeah, I don't want to break it down exactly, but there's something like the 80-20 rule where the people who can drive volume really drive volume. When we've had to back off from some of the smaller customers a little bit. There's an inversion where the less volume you have, the harder customer you are. There's something about I don't want to get too diminutive about it, but there's something where small customers are sometimes small for a reason, and it's because they're not e-commerce pros. Maybe they're better at something else, and so they tend to have more support, more hand-holding through the process, and it just becomes literally expensive for us to support it. And then you bring somebody else who's maybe shipping 50,000 orders a month. There's a lot more ability on their side.
Yeah, they're saying, James, just shut up and get it live. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got, developer resources on their side to actually spin stuff up. So through the network, we're working with, companies like Figs, for example. They're doing tons and tons of scrubs and doing it very, very well. And so they've got a lot of skill on their side to pull that off.
Is there any model that's not just per package? Do you have a flat kind of fee software model or no?
So nothing doesn't come down to per package, because there's always per package at the base of it somewhere.
Okay. So I guess, again, you just told me about your power law, so this is an unfair question, but for the sake of time, what's your sweet spot? So the average customer is going to pay you about what per year to use your technology? Yeah.
So I would say the great customers that are driving the business, they might be spending, $50,000 to $100,000 a month. So we're talking like $1 million annually. And there's a lot of folks who aren't doing that. And there's some folks doing much more than that. But that's the spot where it's a good match, where there's enough sophistication, there's enough need that we can really spin up and provide a lot of value. And
you're obviously always constantly trying to work towards only those kinds of customers, but you also take a chance on some smaller ones because you hope they might scale. So I understand where you're going.
Yeah.
If you look at a true average across the 400, are they all spending, on average 40,000, 50,000 a month through you?
No, those are the cherry customers. Yeah. I'd say if you look at true average, it's something like, $2,000 or $3,000 a month. And that's because we do have a long tail, and there's a little bit, we used to have much lower minimums, like back in the day when we were trying to get the business off the ground, and we didn't understand how much support went into some of those small accounts. And so all those people, we grandfathered them in. We didn't kick anybody off the platform, even as we raised minimums and really changed our profile. There's a ton of folks who are grandfathered in, and we consider them a part of our success and a part of our story. We don't want to, you see other companies who are like, oh, we don't do that anymore, and they just cut everything off. And we're not quite that mercenary about it. We see the value that they gave us in building the company, and we want to. They got in under the wire.
So Josh, I want to understand like how the full ecosystem works on this thing. So let's focus on that $2,000 a month customer. That's what they pay you, right? So it's some combination of per package pricing, plus additional items, plus serial number collection on some of them. But 2,000 through you, what percent of that goes immediately out to FedEx, DHL,
Yeah. So that's about 50% goes straight out to the carriers.
Okay. 50% to carriers. And then about what, I know this probably is different depending on the warehouse, but about how much goes to the warehousing?
Another 25%.
Okay. Got it. So you're engineering essentially a 25% net margin. Oh, no, sorry. Gross margin before your sales and before your salaries and all that.
Yeah. And even that's actually, it ends up being a little bit lower once you work it all out. I mean, really, we can get it down to about a 16% gross margin, and then we're paying salaries out of that.
Yeah, that's good.
It's the top line numbers turn much higher, and then you're like, oh, it's a software business with really high revenue. Once you kind of crack the door open a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, there's actually a little bit less, contributing revenue here.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of companies. So you see this in ad tech a lot where they'll say our revenue is $1 billion. No, they process $1 billion through their platform. Yeah. Then they have to go actually spend the money. They're only making maybe like $1 million on $1 billion of spend.
Exactly. So there's some of that. So we tried the reason that all that stuff flows through our books is because we do actually get leverage with the carriers. And we felt it was important to have those run through our accounts, because someday we were going to get better discounts. Someday it would be a margin opportunity. And so we did want it to flow through our accounts, and we did consider it revenue, even at times when we were subsidizing it. It was one of those decisions where we always had to go back to it. Like, are we being honest about this? Should we be reporting lower revenues? And we said, no, because there is an opportunity someday to make margin on this, we're going to continue to
100%.
declare it as part of our top line.
Yeah, I know. Your margin profile will get better over time as you grow volume.
Right.
So, I mean, tell me if this math is accurate. Can I do this? 400 customers, right? Times about $2,000 a month means you're processing around $800,000 a month total across your base, of which you have about 16% gross margin, or doing about $128,000 a month in revenue. So about 1.5 million a year.
Yeah, I think that's loosely right. Like, okay, we're reporting higher numbers overall, but when you get down into that contributing revenue, I think that's in the range.
And so let's just focus on the $800,000 a month going through your platform. 400 customers, 2,000 a month. What was that exactly a year ago, so we can back into growth rate?
A year ago, let's see. Last year was about 25% year over year on the top line.
Okay. So maybe like $550,000, $600,000 a month through your platform a year ago.
Yeah. And so in the early days, we were growing like, 140, 120%, those things. It's easy to take $1 million and take it to 2 million.
Yeah.
And then we were definitely seeing it was a couple of things. So we hit some scale inflections where you're at a new place where instead of having 6 engineers, you've got 12, and you're getting some.
Is that where you're at, by the way? Is that how many engineers you have right now?
We're about 15 people total, and not all of them engineers. So it's probably half of those are engineers and half of them are technical support.
Any quota carrying reps?
No.
Okay. So you're doing all the sales.
Yeah, we're doing all the sales internally. And so,
but what I'm saying is, though, you don't give like sales. You don't have salespeople where you give commission to.
No, yeah. So we don't have a commission model. So one of the things we love about selling the product is we're here if you need us. We're here if it makes sense for you, and we'll explain it when you come through the door. But we're very afraid of becoming that used car salesman that's just like trying to cram it down your throat to meet the quota. So all of this, it's a little bit of a funny thing. So we were actually acquired 4 months ago. So I'm telling my story about Whiplash. But the fact is, in April, we were acquired by Port Logistics Group. And so while these things are still true, because we run this, small team and this, independent company inside that larger parent company, I'm thinking over my answers and trying to remember, like, are these still true? Do we have quota carrying salespeople? And you know what? We might now, even though they're not on my team. I can't really speak for the rest of the organization.
Yeah. Now, will this be, I mean, if you're doing $800,000 a month in volume through your platform, this could potentially be your first 10 kind of million GMV year. Do you think you'll break 10 million this year through your platform?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's exciting. Now, why did you sell?
So we started the company to sell it. In the very beginning, it was this thing. I was running a company called VG Kids that's actually still doing very, very well. And it was so close to me and so much heart in the business. And it was just something I built with my friends for my friends. And I was getting a little bit older, trying to raise a family. And I was like, I actually need a little more money in life. And as bad as that felt to be sort of money motivated, I was like, I got to start one. I got to do it for the money.
When did you launch the company? What year?
Financial win here. 2007 was the very beginning.
So you'd been at it for more than 10 years as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it was part-time in the beginning, and we built it slowly. And of course, we built up, those meaningful relationships with all of our customers and employees. And it felt just as bad to think about selling it as it ever would have. But the fact is, we found a great partner who saw our vision, and there was a way to get a little bit of money out, but provide a really stable place for the team and the customers to land, and to make it a better version of Whiplash than we had built on our own. And we took it.
So was more than 90% of the deal really you going to stock options in Port Logistics?
No. So for me, it was about liquidity. And so we downplayed that role.
Yeah, that's good. Now, had you bootstrapped the company before the acquisition, or had you raised?
We had done both. So we bootstrapped for about 7 years, and then we went through 500 startups, and then we raised a small seed round from Tim Draper. And there's a few folks involved in that point, and it felt like we owed them a return. And sort of we put 10 years into the company, and we're ready to do something else. And
how much total had you raised when you add all that up?
I think it was like 1.3 million.
Okay, good.
So small by Bay Area standards, but it's all relative. When we got our wire for $1 million, it was the most money I'd ever seen in my life at that time. You're looking at your bank account, you're like, we can do anything. And then 3 months later, you're like, wow, that is not a lot of money. So it's all relative.
Yep. And then when you were discussing and going through the negotiations with Port Logistics, what did you try and anchor to in terms of valuations? Did you trying to anchor towards a GMV multiple, or a contributed revenue multiple, or something else?
Yeah, so it was a constant push and pull, right? Because PLG is private equity backed. And so they look at things very, very strictly through an EBITDA multiple. Whereas, we're from Silicon Valley, where everything is like a, MRR multiple. And so we're sort of at odds there. And we found a way to.
Well, you probably weren't profitable, right? You probably had no EBITDA.
Well, so we had to do something about that. So we went through a phase where we were like, okay, we're going to prove that this thing can deliver EBITDA, and that's very different than the way people think about startups. So it wasn't cutting; it was just a matter of stopping the kind of aggressive growth that we'd been on, and then letting the growth catch up and deliver, so that we could hit those new layers. And there's a little bit of tuning on the platform. We've been subsidizing things like packaging materials for years, and didn't want it to slow growth down, and so you fix those things. We had always made sure we were sort of within arm's distance of profitability. And so it was just a matter of buckling down and tuning the company a little bit.
So got profitable before the acquisition. And then did the thing pan out? I mean, was it more or less than a $5 million deal?
I don't want to go into the numbers on the deal, but I will say that it was very positive for us. And
how did you measure positive? Like, for example, if you figured out a way to do a side deal with Port Logistics, it could be great for you, but if you didn't get out from under the liquidation preference on the 1.3 raised, it could be bad for Angels, right? Or
yeah, we made it work for all of investors. It wasn't, like a portfolio, winning deal where like, okay, that took care of the entire round, but we wanted to make sure that people would work with us again. And my personal reputation is important to me. And so no one got hurt in the deal.
Yep. So they say it's hard to motivate a man after you make him wealthy. So why are you still there?
Because you can make a man a little bit more wealthy. There's that.
Is there an earnout?
There's a little bit of an earnout, okay. And then so obviously they put golden handcuffs on these deals, pretty much always, right? And then I have feel like a responsibility to my team, and I sold them a vision that we're going to get integrated. And these are my friends, and these are people I've.
Did they get anything from the acquisition? Did the waterfall hit them or no?
Yeah, we made sure it splashed on everyone a little bit. I don't know if it was. The full gushing force that they may have hoped for, but we made sure it splashed around.
A splash is good. I like that analogy. All right, let's wrap up here with the famous 5, James. Number 1, favorite business book.
I'm going to go with Power of Habit,
Number,
which is not.
that's good. Power habit's good. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
No one specific right now.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building the company?
GitHub.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep are you getting every night?
8 to 9.
That's pretty good. Okay, and what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
Married with children.
How many kiddos?
I've got 26 and 16. My oldest is the product manager for Whiplash.
Oh, wow. Okay, so 2 folks. That's good. You got a busy man. All right, how old are you?
I turned 41 this week.
40. Congratulations. That's exciting. All right, last question. Take us back to your 20-year-old self. What do you wish you knew?
So number 1, that it's going to be okay. I was so scared. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was so scared and so I lacked confidence in and I think, and I look back and I think it must have been like, sitting out of me in every transaction. And like, every time I submitted pricing or thought about an idea or considered whether to even, try to get investors, and man, confidence is everything. And I think that's one of the biggest fundamental things is that I can ask for things now in a way that I had a hard time with before.
Guys, Whiplash, order fulfillment for e-commerce, now working with over 400 brands that put on average $2,000 of product through them. So call it $800,000 per month through the platform total. They have a 16% kind of margin profile on that money because call it 25% goes to the warehouse expenses and 50% go to the carriers that actually deliver the product. But they are a software layer in between there. They make it more efficient. Launched in 2007, raised $1.3 million, got profitable before they exited to a PE-backed company, call it 4 or 5 months ago. Now the team of about 15 people that are continuing to build the company, 7 engineers as they look to continue to grow inside of port logistics. James, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you.
These CEOs rarely give these kinds of interviews. I hit them hard, I get the data, and I want to do it more. So if you want to get more of this stuff, make sure you subscribe up here. And then additionally, go check out one of my other CEO interviews right now.